You know that feeling when you've survived like the absolute hardest things in life, only to be tripped up by something incredibly stupid?
Oh, yeah. Like the universe just playing a joke on you.
Exactly. I mean, imagine you took a battle-tested military tank, right? One that had driven straight through a literal war zone.
Taking artillery fire, dodging landmines, the whole 9 yards.
Yes, for decades. And then you park this massive, indestructible tank in a quiet suburban driveway, only for it to be completely decommissioned by like a rusty nail.
Right. It defies all logic.
It totally does. And welcome to this deep dive, by the way. Today we have a mission custom tailored for you listening. We are pulling apart excerpts from Ozzy Osbourne's newly released 2025 memoir.
Last Rites, yeah. Such a fascinating read.
It really is. And our goal here is to look closely at this exact paradox of survival. I mean, how does a man who endured decades of extreme, mind-bending substance abuse, right, plus a plane literally crashing into his tour bus?
And that near-fatal quad bike accident?
Right. How does someone with that track record end up fighting for his life over a manicured cuticle and a clumsy trip to the bathroom?
It's wild. When you lay the timeline out, it reads like a medical thriller.
Oh, completely.
But diving into these sources, what emerges isn't just, another rock and roll debauchery highlight reel.
No, not at all.
It's this profound, frequently hilarious, and honestly deeply moving study on the reality of aging and the relentless psychology of addiction.
Plus just the fragile, totally unpredictable mechanics of the human body.
Exactly.
So the timeline itself is bonkers. We pick up the story around late 2018. Ozzy is approaching his 70th birthday.
Which is a milestone he never thought he'd hit.
Right. Growing up in deep poverty in Aston, Birmingham, he honestly thought 60 was ancient. Yet at 70, he feels fitter than he did at 30.
Yeah, he's headlining the No More Tours to Sec a Farewell tour.
Sprinting across the stage, belting out War Pigs every single night, he just feels utterly invincible.
But, that illusion of invincibility is precisely what sets the trap.
Oh, 100%.
Because the catalyst for his physical collapse wasn't some crazy drug bender.
Yeah.
Ironically, it was his intense, almost obsessive dedication to the tour itself. Screaming for an hour and a half every night at age 69 places an immense physical toll on the vocal cords.
I can't even imagine.
Right. So, terrified his voice would give out and let the fans down, he turns to this prescribed steroid called Decadron to manage the inflammation.
Which, that sounds completely responsible on paper. A doctor prescribes 2 drops a day with dinner.
Standard protocol.
Yeah. But Ozzy's brain doesn't process substances like a normal patient.
Not at all.
2 drops quickly escalate to 5.
Yeah.
Then he adds a morning top-up. Before long, he is drinking full bottles of the steroid.
And to understand why that is so dangerous, we really have to look at how Decadron actually works in the body.
Break that down for us.
So it's a corticosteroid. In small prescribed doses, it effectively tells the body to dial down inflammation.
Which is great for swollen vocal cords.
Perfect for that. But when you abuse it at the sheer volume Ozzy was consuming, it doesn't just reduce inflammation, it effectively acts as a kill switch for your entire immune system.
A kill switch? Wow.
Yeah. Your white blood cells stop responding to threats. Your whole internal defense grid goes completely offline.
And his defense grid goes offline right at the exact moment he is hosting VIP meet and greets every single afternoon.
Shaking thousands of hands.
Physically shaking thousands of fans' hands. Add to that his lifelong nervous habit of biting his fingernails.
It's a literal perfect storm.
It really is. He introduces a bacterial staph infection directly into his bitten cuticles. He wakes up one morning and his thumb has swollen to the size of a 100-watt light bulb.
He describes it in the book as glowing like a novelty foam finger from a baseball game.
Which is such an Aussie way to describe it.
Right. But when he finally gets to urgent care, the physician is just horrified.
Because he has no immune system left.
Exactly. The infection is spreading at an alarming rate. Standard antibiotics aren't going to work fast enough for this.
So what do?
He requires emergency surgery to literally scrape the dead, infected tissue out of his thumb before the bacteria can migrate into his bloodstream or infect his bones.
Oh, that is so visceral. But picture the irony of this scene, right? He's sitting in the ER and his wife Sharon is doing what we all do.
Googling the symptoms.
Yes. Looking it up on her phone. They land on a Wikipedia list of famous people killed by staph infections.
Oh, man.
They're reading names like actor Roy Scheider. Ozzy is having a full-blown panic attack that after all the absolute madness of his life, This is how the Prince of Darkness goes out.
A manicured cuticle.
Right. But looking at the chain of events, it's just so tragic. His sheer desperation to give the fans a perfect farewell actually triggered the exact health crisis that forced him to cancel those very shows.
It is a totally self-fulfilling prophecy. His fear of failing the audience drove him to abuse the steroid.
Yep.
The steroid destroyed his immune system. The compromised immune system allowed the staph infection to take over, which ultimately forced the cancellation he was trying to avoid in the first place.
He was trying to outrun his own human limitations.
Precisely.
But, the real danger here wasn't just physical. When you give a mind like Ozzy's a substance that alters his baseline reality, even just a prescribed steroid meant for his throat, it flips a switch.
It absolutely does.
He stops treating it like a medicine and starts treating it like a fix. Which brings us straight into his raw reflections on addiction in the memoir.
And I have to say, he provides some of the most articulate insights into the nature of addiction that I've ever encountered.
Really? How so?
Well, he describes carrying the disease like an unexploded bomb that you can never permanently defuse or put down.
That is a powerful image.
It is. And he notes that it's an incredibly cunning disease because its primary symptom is a voice constantly telling you that you don't actually have a disease.
Wow. Yeah, he reflects a lot on Matthew Perry's tragic death, which clearly shook him deeply.
Because they had a history, right?
Yeah, Perry used to attend AA meetings at Ozzy's house. Ozzy saw firsthand how hard Perry fought and how desperately he wanted to stay clean.
Which just reinforces that unexploded bomb concept.
Exactly. It reinforces Ozzy's core realization that you can give everything you have to recovery, but if that internal voice convinces you to take just one sip or one hit, the bomb detonates.
And he illustrates that explosive mechanism so beautifully with his own experience at a ketamine clinic.
Oh, right. This part was wild.
So his wife Sharon had found profound success using controlled microdosing to process and heal from past trauma.
Which is becoming a pretty common therapy.
Yeah, very mainstream now. So seeing her results, Ozzy decides to try it himself. But the moment that tiny microdose enters his system, the moment he feels that slight chemical altering of the mind, his reaction is entirely different from hers.
Completely different.
He has zero interest in exploring trauma. His immediate, overwhelming realization is that he just wants to keep taking the ketamine until he completely blacks out.
It's like taking a car that's been built purely for drag racing and trying to drive at the speed limit in a school zone.
That is a great way to put it.
The moment his brain feels the engine rev from the ketamine, it doesn't want to process emotions. It just wants to floor the gas pedal until the engine blows.
Right. He actually walks right out of the clinic.
Because he recognizes the demon immediately. He writes that addiction is physical, but ultimately it steals your spirit. Recovery is the grueling act of earning your spirit back.
And that pursuit of a fix is just relentless. It creates what he calls living in two worlds.
The sober world and the drunk world.
Exactly. And the terrifying part of the drunk world is the absolute loss of control. He reflects on moments like driving flat out around blind country lanes, heavily medicated on pills, actually hitting people.
Oh my God.
Yeah. The guilt of the damage he caused in that alternate reality clearly haunts him.
You really see that relentless pursuit morph throughout his life, too. Like, when he quit illegal drugs, the addiction shifted to legal prescriptions.
Just finding a new avenue.
Right. And then when he kicked the pills, it shifted to ice cream.
Ice cream.
Yes. He was eating so much Haagen-Dazs, he actually made himself pre-diabetic.
That's insane.
And then the fixation shifted to cigars, smoking 30 full-strength Montecristos a day, inhaling them until his vocal cords were wrecked.
It really demonstrates the classic whack-a-mole nature of an addictive personality. The substance changes, but the underlying neurological craving for a dopamine flood remains identical.
Totally. So going back to the timeline, he manages to get the staph infection under control. He's sober again. He survives the brutality of 2018.
Barely, but he does.
Right. He even plays a New Year's Eve Ozfest gig in Los Angeles. On the surface, he's back.
But underneath.
Exactly. That immune system he wrecked with the Decadron, that physiological debt comes due, setting off a horrific domino effect.
Oh, this sequence of events is just brutal. During that New Year's gig, he decides to fire a freezing cold snow cannon at himself on stage.
Because why wouldn't he?
Right. Classic Ozzy. But then he spends the rest of the set running around in a soaking wet t-shirt in the freezing Los Angeles night. Predictably, his severely compromised immune system simply cannot handle the shock. He catches a brutal case of the flu, which quickly deepens into bronchitis and ultimately settles as pneumonia.
Which brings us to February 2019. He is heavily congested, incredibly weak, and just miserable. It's the middle of the night, pitch dark in his bedroom.
And he gets up to use the bathroom?
Yeah, and here's where the absurdity and tragedy truly collide. He finishes up, walks back into the dark room, and attempts his signature rock star stage dive into his massive remote-controlled bed.
A bed that, by the way, he explicitly likens to a Sherman tank.
Which is so funny but so bad. He completely misses the bed. He stage dives directly onto the hard bedroom floor.
And he breaks his neck.
He breaks his neck,
Yeah.
just from a fall in the dark.
And this isn't just a standard fracture. To understand the catastrophic nature of this fall, you have to remember his history.
Right, the quad bike.
Back in 2003, he suffered a massive quad bike accident in the UK. The National Health Service had to completely rebuild his collarbone and spine, reinforcing his vertebrae with heavy metal plates, rods, and screws.
He jokes in the book that he was half man, half rivet.
Yeah, but that past medical salvation turns into a present nightmare. He is rushed to Cedars-Sinai in LA.
What did the doctors find?
The surgical team realizes the impact of the fall has violently dislodged the metal hardware from 2003.
Oh, man.
Even worse, the trauma has compressed his spine to the point where his spinal fluid has been entirely depleted in that area.
Wait, what does that mean practically?
So spinal fluid acts as the hydraulic shock absorber for your central nervous system. Without it, his spinal cord is essentially a bare wire grinding directly against those dislodged metal plates.
A bare wire grinding against metal plates, that sounds agonizing.
It is. He is one wrong movement away from permanent Christopher Reeve-level paralysis.
So the surgical intervention required is immediate and incredibly risky. Because his entire livelihood depends on his vocal cords, the surgeons refuse to enter through the front of the throat, fearing they might nick a cord.
Which is standard for spinal surgery, going through the front.
Right, so instead, they have to slice through the back of his neck, cutting entirely through the major muscle groups that hold the human head upright.
And the physical toll of that surgery is just devastating. It takes over twice as long as the surgeons anticipated.
And his body is already wrecked from the pneumonia.
Exactly. His body simply cannot handle the immense trauma. He ends up in the ICU on life support. Because they had to cut through his neck muscles, his body goes into a defensive shock.
A cascading failure.
Yes. His muscles atrophy so rapidly that his legs become temporarily paralyzed. The immobility leads to blood clots.
It just keeps getting worse.
The blood clots require aggressive medication, which inadvertently causes fluid to pool in his lungs. That requires even more medication.
It's a nightmare.
At the peak of this crisis, he is consuming 64 different medications a day and vividly hallucinating that Elvis Presley is casually visiting his hospital room.
Wait, hold on. 64 medications. We're talking about a man who openly manipulated gig doctors and pain dentists for massive amounts of Vicodin for decades.
Oh, heavily manipulated them.
Doesn't the medical system bear some responsibility here? Like, they kept handing him the pills that masked his physical deterioration, essentially enabling him to push his body to this breaking point in the first place.
It is a complex web of mutual complicity, honestly.
How does Ozzy see it?
He takes immense personal accountability in his writing. He freely admits he was a master manipulator who exploited the American for-profit medical system. He knew exactly how to use his wealth and celebrity status to acquire whatever narcotics he wanted.
He owns up to that?
He does. However, he also aims a fiercely critical eye at that same system during his spinal recovery.
Interesting. Why?
He argues the surgical team was overly optimistic, perhaps blinded by the sheer financial cost of the procedure, and utterly failed to prepare him for the agonizing, paralyzing reality of long-term nerve damage.
Yeah, put yourself in his position for a moment. You are trapped in a rigid, Dracula-style neck brace.
Can't move?
You cannot move your arms or legs properly. Every movement shoots agonizing nerve pain through your body.
Yeah.
You are genuinely convinced you will never walk again. What do you do with your mind?
You go inward.
Exactly. Ozzy retreats inward. He begins dissecting his entire life, searching for meaning in his legacy.
I think this internal retreat is where the memoir elevates from a chaotic survival story into a really profound meditation on art and fame.
It really shifts gears.
Yeah, stripped of his mobility and his stage, he actively dismantles the myth of his own genius. He insists repeatedly that there was never a grand master plan to his career.
He categorizes his monumental legacy as a clever accident.
Which is such a great phrase.
It is a remarkably refreshing lack of ego. He traces his drive, all the way back to being a severely dyslexic kid in deep poverty, literally using a stick and his imagination to escape his reality in Aston.
Just a kid trying to survive.
Right, and he completely demystifies some of rock history's most legendary, controversial moments. Take the infamous dove-biting incident.
Oh, the story is amazing. For decades, cultural critics and fans alike thought it was this calculated, brilliant piece of satanic marketing.
Right. But the actual truth is entirely pathetic and hilarious.
Yeah.
It's 1981. He is desperately trying to break into the American market with the Blizzard of Oz album.
High stakes.
Very high stakes.
Yeah.
He's sitting in Century City at a massive CBS marketing meeting, and he is 36 hours into a severe alcohol bender.
Not a great start.
No. Sharon had instructed him to release 2 white doves into the air to make a peaceful, memorable impression on the executives.
A nice symbolic gesture.
Instead, he's sitting in a chair, the doves are literally defecating in his coat pockets, and the corporate executives across the table look incredibly bored.
They don't care at all.
Right, so in a drunken, impulsive act of pure desperation to get their attention, he pulls one out and bites its head off.
It wasn't marketing genius at all. It was just the raw impulse of an addict craving a reaction.
Exactly.
But that singular, chaotic moment inadvertently forged the Prince of Darkness mythology. You see this running theme of raw, unpolished spontaneity defining his entire career.
Especially when he reflects on the dynamics of Black Sabbath. The Sabbath stories completely back up that theory. They didn't have a master plan either.
Yeah, they were just kids.
They didn't even have enough money for a rehearsal space.
Yeah.
They just snuck into local community centers, jammed until they felt a physical tickle at their spines, and ended up writing a genre-defining anthem like Paranoid in exactly 25 minutes.
But that reliance on raw spontaneity left them incredibly vulnerable as the music industry rapidly evolved around them.
How so?
Well, he writes really candidly about the brutal reality check they faced in 1978. Sabbath was established as the godfather of heavy metal, but they were exhausted and creatively drained.
Right, running on fumes.
So they hired a young, completely unknown support act from Los Angeles.
Van Halen.
Precisely. Ozzy describes standing on the side of the stage watching a 23-year-old Eddie Van Halen play the instrumental Eruption.
Mind-blowing stuff.
Oh, totally. Sabbath was built on heavy, blues-driven, sludgy doom. It was entirely about the emotional weight of the sound. Van Halen was hyper-technical, flashy, precision-engineered stadium rock.
A totally different beast.
Yeah. Ozzy realized in a single instant that the game had fundamentally changed. The era of raw, sludgy feeling was being replaced by virtuosic production, and Van Halen blew them off the stage every single night.
Man, that's the ultimate changing of the guard. And that inherent tension between raw instinct and polished modern production haunted him all the way to 2013, when Sabbath reunited to record the album 13.
With super producer Rick Rubin?
Yes, the cultural contrast in those studio sessions is almost comical.
Oh, it's night and day.
On one side, you have Ozzy, a working-class brummie who survived entirely on instinct, volume, and chaos. On the other side, you have Rick Rubin,
Working barefoot,
surrounded by Buddha statues, demanding hundreds of meticulously controlled takes. Rubin literally banned the band from writing or playing any happy chords.
Because he was trying to artificially manufacture that classic spooky Sabbath sound.
Right. Ozzy admits he hated the process at first. He had to completely check his ego at the door. But looking back at all of this from his hospital bed, this chaotic, accidental, deeply flawed legacy, it actually provides the exact psychological spark he needs to survive his paralysis.
It perfectly mirrors a classic resurrection narrative.
It really does.
He reaches absolute rock bottom. He describes physically crawling up his own staircase on his hands and knees, openly weeping from the agonizing nerve pain.
So it's brutal.
He feels like a burden to his family. He is entirely ready to give up and stay in bed forever. But then 2 incredibly bizarre, specific events pull him back from the edge.
The first one is brilliant in its absurdity. He discovers his hometown of Birmingham has named a bridge after Black Sabbath.
Which is a huge honor.
Huge honor. But it's not just a bridge. The city installed a metal bench featuring cutout portraits of the band members. Because of how the portraits are arranged on the metalwork, fans who sit on the bench to take a photo literally have to sit on Geezer Butler's face.
He laughs so hard at the image that it physically hurts his broken neck.
I mean, you can't help but laugh.
Right, but that moment of pure humor acts as a tether. It reminds him of his roots, of his childhood friend Pat, of the industrial canals he used to play by.
It grounds him.
It connects him deeply back to the pure, unadulterated joy of why he ever picked up a microphone in the first place.
Yeah, and the second lifeline comes directly from his daughter, Kelly. She approaches him and says a massive contemporary artist wants to collaborate with him.
And Ozzy's immediate response:
Who the F is Post Malone?
classic.
She plays him the Spider-Man soundtrack. He realizes the scale of the artist, and they agree to record a track together.
And that collaboration is the definitive turning point in his recovery. He realizes that an entirely new generation of musicians and fans reviews him. He hasn't been forgotten.
That has to feel so validating.
Absolutely, but more importantly, he realizes he still possesses a ravenous hunger to create.
The drive is still there.
That internal hunger is the only mechanism powerful enough to force him through the excruciating daily physical and vocal therapy. He slowly starts walking, he starts singing again.
It makes you wonder about the mechanics of his survival. Is Ozzy's ultimate will to live simply his deep-seated, paralyzing fear of letting his fans down?
Right.
Like, is the audience itself his actual life support system?
You know, it goes deeper than just seeking applause. The audience isn't merely his life support. The act of performance is his fundamental tether to reality and identity.
So without it.
Without the ability to perform, the Ozzy Osbourne persona ceases to exist. The distant prospect of returning to a stage gave him a tangible, necessary reason to endure the profound agony of his physical recovery.
To bring this all into focus for you listening today, we started by looking at a rock star desperately trying to outrun the realities of aging. A man who felt utterly invincible right up until he was dismantled by a swollen cuticle and a clumsy fall in the dark.
A rusty nail taking out a tank.
Exactly. We watched him navigate the treacherous, shifting waters of his own addictive neurology and survive a catastrophic medical nightmare that left him temporarily paralyzed.
It's an incredible journey.
Ultimately, we saw him rebuild his spirit through sheer working-class stubbornness and a newfound appreciation for his own chaotic, entirely accidental legacy.
His story stands as a visceral reminder that survival is rarely a graceful process.
No, it's not.
It is messy, it is agonizing, and it is profoundly unpredictable.
And that leaves us with a final thought for you to carry forward. We live in an era where we spend an enormous amount of time, energy, and money trying to biohack our way to longevity.
Tracking every calorie, every step.
Right. We take freezing ice baths, we obsessively track our sleep cycles on smartwatches, we avoid every conceivable risk in an attempt to perfectly preserve the physical machine. But Ozzy Osbourne's story suggests a completely different paradigm.
A totally different way of looking at what keeps us alive.
Maybe ultimate survival isn't just about pristine preservation of the body. Maybe it's about cultivating a spirit that is so fiercely, stubbornly attached to its purpose. Whether that purpose is belting out a heavy metal anthem to a stadium of thousands, or simply finding the strength to make one more record, that it flat out refuses to let the broken body quit.
The spirit drags the body forward.
Exactly. What is the stage in your life that you would crawl over broken glass to get back to?